What if I told you that the most dangerous team at the 2026 World Cup isn't Brazil, isn't France, isn't even Argentina, it's a team from Africa that most people aren't even talking about? What if I told you that Egypt, yes, Egypt, is quietly building something so powerful, so calculated, so ready to explode on the world stage that by the time everyone realizes it, it might already be too late? Stay right here because in the next 11 minutes I'm going to show you exactly why Egypt could be the biggest surprise story of the entire 2026 World Cup. And trust me, once you hear this, you're going to want to share this video with every football fan you know. Right now, the football world is sleeping on Egypt. The analysts are busy talking about England's depth, Spain's possession, and Mbappe's pace. Nobody is sitting in a studio saying, watch out for Egypt. Nobody is putting them on their dark horse lists. Nobody is losing sleep over the Pharaohs. And that right there might be the biggest mistake the football world is making heading into 2026, because while nobody is watching, Egypt has been doing the work. Silent, focused, dangerous. Before we go any further, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a like on this video. We cover football stories that the mainstream media completely ignores, and you do not want to miss what's coming next on this channel. Let's start with the foundation of everything, the squad. Egypt is not the same team that got knocked around in previous tournaments. This is a new generation, a deeper squad, a more tactically mature group of players than Egypt has ever fielded in its entire footballing history. Yes, Mohamed Salah is still there, and we're going to talk about him in detail in just a moment, but the story of this Egyptian team goes so far beyond one man. Egypt has been developing players across European leagues, across the African continent, players who know how to handle pressure, players who have played in Champions League nights, players who have been through relegation battles and title races. The squad has experience, hunger, and something that money cannot buy, a point to prove. Let's talk about the tactical setup for a second, because this is where Egypt's growth becomes really clear. Under their current coaching structure, Egypt has shifted away from being a reactive, defensive team that parks the bus and prays for a Salah moment of magic. They are now pressing higher, they are building out from the back with confidence, they are creating combinations in midfield that are genuinely difficult to break down. When you watch Egypt play today versus how they played 5 or 6 years ago, it looks like a completely different football philosophy. The players are fitter, the shape is more disciplined, and the attacking transitions are sharper. This is not an accident. This is the result of years of deliberate planning and investment in football infrastructure at the national team level. Now let's talk about Mohamed Salah because we have to. We absolutely have to. Mohamed Salah in 2026 will be 34 years old. And I know what some of you are thinking, he's too old, he's past his peak, Egypt will be too dependent on him. But let me push back on every single one of those points. 34 is not old in modern football. Luka Modric was playing World Cup football and being named best player in the world at that age. Cristiano Ronaldo was still scoring goals for fun at 35 and 36. And Mohamed Salah is not just any footballer, he is one of the fittest, most disciplined athletes in the entire sport. His body is a machine. His professionalism is unmatched. The man doesn't drink, he doesn't party, he trains like someone who is absolutely terrified of slowing down. Salah at 34 on the biggest stage in football with something to prove after years of near misses with Egypt. That is one of the most dangerous combinations you can imagine. And here's the thing people forget about Salah at international level. He has never, not once, had a World Cup performance that matched his club performances. His international record has always been the asterisk next to his otherwise perfect CV. The 2018 World Cup was disrupted by injury. Egypt crashed out in the group stage. It was painful to watch for Salah and for every Egyptian football fan. 2022, Egypt didn't even qualify. They lost that heartbreaking playoff against Senegal. Salah was visibly devastated. If you go back and watch his face after that loss, you will understand just how much the World Cup means to him. This is personal for him. 2026 is not just another tournament for Mohamed Salah, this is his redemption arc. This is the chapter in his story that he has been waiting to write. And a motivated, hungry, determined Mohamed Salah on a World Cup stage is something that should terrify every group stage opponent Egypt draws. But let's zoom out from Salah for a second and look at something even bigger, the 2026 World Cup format itself. This is the first World Cup in history with 48 teams. 48 teams means more group stage games, it means more paths to the round of 16, it means that a team like Egypt, organized, defensively solid, with a world-class match winner, has more room to breathe, more opportunities to accumulate points, more margin for one bad game. In the old 32-team format, one slip in the group stage could end everything. Now, You have more games to find your rhythm, more opportunities to let your best players find their form, more chances for a team built on defensive structure and individual brilliance to grind through. The expanded format was made for teams exactly like Egypt. Africa gets more slots in 2026 as well, 9 spots from CAF instead of the usual 5. That means the African teams who qualify are not doing it as easily as they might have before. The competition within Africa is fierce, but it also means that when Egypt gets to the tournament, they will have been through a qualification process that tests them properly. Egypt qualifying through a competitive CAF process means they arrive at the tournament battle-hardened, used to pressure, used to hostile environments, used to playing must-win games. That experience is invaluable at a World Cup. Now let's talk about the draw and the potential paths, because this is where the tactical reality of what Egypt could do starts to feel very real. In a 48-team World Cup, the group stage now has 12 groups of 4 teams. Egypt, seeded appropriately based on their FIFA ranking, could realistically be drawn into a group where they are not the underdogs. Think about this. Egypt could face opponents from weaker confederations, nations with less World Cup experience, teams without the organizational structure that Egypt has been building. 2 wins in the group stage gets you through. 2 wins, Egypt. With Salah, with their defensive organization, with their tactical discipline. 2 wins in the group stage is completely, absolutely achievable. And once you're in the knockout rounds at a World Cup, anything can happen. Once you're in the last 16, momentum takes over, drama takes over, and one match on one night can change everything. Let's talk about the players beyond Salah who will be crucial to Egypt's campaign. The midfield is where the real transformation has happened. Egypt has players now who are not just utility runners, they are technically gifted, they can keep the ball, they can control tempo, they can cover ground. Having a midfield that can protect the defense while also transitioning quickly into attack is what separates the World Cup contenders from the World Cup participants. Egypt's midfield has grown up. They have players who understand that their job is to give Salah and the attacking players the platform they need. Clean ball, good positions, quick transitions. That understanding, that maturity in midfield is what allows a team to survive and thrive at a World Cup. Defensively, Egypt has always had organization as their foundation, but what has changed is that the defense is now more comfortable on the ball, more willing to step up and engage, less passive and more aggressive in their positioning. A back 4 that can defend deep when needed but also push up and compress space is far harder to break down than a team that just sits deep and invites pressure. Egypt has developed defenders who play in European leagues, who face world-class strikers every single week, who understand spacing and timing at the highest level. When those defenders put on the Egyptian shirt, they bring all of that experience with them. There's also something that doesn't show up in statistics but is absolutely critical at a World Cup belief: collective belief. The belief within a squad that they belong on this stage, that they can compete with anyone, that the tournament is not too big for them. Egypt has been building that belief in a very specific way over the past few years. They have played friendly matches against top European nations. They have competed in tournaments where they have been tested and not embarrassed. The players have looked at each other in difficult moments and found the answer. That culture of belief, once it takes root in a squad, is almost impossible to stop. And from everything coming out of the Egyptian national team setup right now, that belief is very, very real. Let me give you a scenario that I want you to really picture for a moment. Picture it's July 2026. The World Cup group stage is almost over. Egypt have won their first 2 games. Salah has scored twice, both goals electric, both moments that have broken the internet. The entire football world is suddenly talking about Egypt. The analysts who ignored them for months are scrambling to do breakdowns. Social media is flooded with Egyptian fans celebrating in the streets of Cairo, and Egypt are walking into their last 16 match with momentum, with confidence, with the whole of Africa behind them, and with a player who was born for exactly this moment leading the attack. Can you see it? Because it is not a fantasy, it is genuinely, credibly possible. The African football story at World Cups has always been about potential, about the moments that almost happened, the performances that nearly caused upsets, the teams that went deep and came agonizingly close. 1990 Cameroon reached the quarterfinals and the world fell in love. 2010 Ghana almost made the semifinals and had their hearts broken by a hand on the goal line. 2022 Morocco rewrote the entire history of African football by reaching the semifinals and showing the world that an African team could absolutely compete with the very best. Morocco's achievement changed everything. It changed the way scouts look at African players. It changed the way coaches think about African tactical setups. It changed the belief level across the entire continent. Egypt watched Morocco in 2022. They watched every single game, and they took notes. Egypt is not trying to copy Morocco. They have their own identity, their own style, their own weapon in Salah that Morocco simply did not have. But what Morocco showed is that the mental barrier, the idea that African teams can only go so far, is completely gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And Egypt, with their history, their passionate fan base, their infrastructure, and their world-class players are in a better position than almost any African nation to build on what Morocco started. The African football revolution that Morocco started in 2022 continues in 2026, and Egypt intends to be right in the middle of it. There's also the home continent factor to consider. The 2026 World Cup is being hosted across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. For Egyptian fans and African supporters generally, the tournament is significantly more accessible than tournaments held in Europe or Asia. The diaspora communities in the United States are enormous and passionate. Egyptian Americans, North African communities across the Eastern Seaboard, African football supporters across every major American city, they will show up. They will be loud. They will create an atmosphere for Egypt that the team will feel in their bones. Having that kind of support in the stands is not a small thing at a World Cup. It is fuel. It is energy. It is the difference between a team that grinds and a team that flies. And let's not forget the political and cultural significance of this moment for Egypt specifically. Football in Egypt is not just sport, it is identity, it is pride, it is national soul. The Cairo derby between Ali and Zamalek is one of the most intense football environments on the planet. Egyptians don't just follow football, they breathe it, they live it, they carry it in their hearts. When the national team goes to a World Cup, the entire nation stops. Schools are quieter, offices empty out, streets fill with flags. The emotional investment that Egyptian people put into their national team creates a kind of pressure that some players buckle under, but the right players, the ones who are built for this, thrive under it. And Mohamed Salah was literally born in a country that produces that kind of pressure. He has carried the weight of Egyptian football on his shoulders his entire career. He is not afraid of expectation. He feeds on it. Here is the bottom line, and I want you to really hear this. Egypt in 2026 has everything that a dark horse World Cup team needs. They have a world-class match winner at arguably the most motivated point of his career. They have a defensive structure that is hard to break down. They have a midfield that has grown up tactically. They have players with European experience scattered throughout the squad. They have a coach with a clear philosophy and a team that believes in it. They have the benefit of a 48-team format that gives them more paths and more margin. They have the support of African football riding high on Morocco's 2022 achievement. They have a fan base that will move mountains to be present and loud in the United States. And they have something that you simply cannot manufacture: a story. The Pharaohs. The redemption of Mohamed Salah. Africa's sleeping giant finally waking up on the world stage. That story has World Cup magic written all over it. Before we close out, I want you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now and tell me, do you think Egypt can make the quarterfinals in 2026? I want to know exactly what you think. And if you've got a friend who loves football and has been sleeping on Egypt, share this video with them right now. Let's wake people up before the World Cup does it for them. Hit the like button if this video opened your eyes, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next breakdown, because we've got more World Cup dark horse stories coming that are going to absolutely blow your mind. The 2026 World Cup is going to be unlike anything we have ever seen. The Pharaohs are coming, and nobody is ready.